Good afternoon, everyone. Ellen Sutterth of ESP Presents and ESP Book Chats, where we bring page turners your way. This is our Wednesday. Every Wednesday, we're going to try every Wednesday to have Katie Jones, and she has just popped in. Come on in the room. Hopefully, you got your tea, coffee. Thank you, D. Bean, for coming in. This is our educator, Katie Jones. Katie, do you have your coffee, tea, whatever?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Um, I love these talks. Thank you, Dr. Robert, for coming in. And as those who are listening or that are following us, you guys know, and those who know us from Noon Vibe, like Dr. Robert, I bring Katie out to dust the school news on her. Good morning to you, Dr. Robert.
Good morning,
And so
Dr. Robert.
let's get started. Tell the folks who you are. And today our title, we're talking about No Child Left Behind. And that is the 2021 CARE Act, that was put into place
Hmm.
under what they say under George Bush.
Yeah.
And so let's get
Yeah.
into it. I want to know your perspective of, by you being an educator, what does that mean in real verbiage? You always
Right.
spell it, but let's tell the folks who you are, and we'll get into it.
Right. Thank you for having me on again, Miss Ellen. You know I love our Wednesday chats. So, for those of you who don't know me, hi, my name's Katie. I'm the founder of One Room Education, where we are working to empower parents, students, and educators to take back control of their education to help foster the most free and prosperous generation yet. We're doing that through advocacy for a classical mastery-based education, as well as home-based when possible. We have we're getting ready to launch courses. That's what I've been working on like all week since I talked to you last. Um, and yeah, we have actually a testing specialist, an assessment specialist, a nationally renowned assessment specialist that I'm working with now. So we actually just talked about this just casually in teacher conversation the other day when we were planning out some podcast episodes that we're going to be working on. So very, very good timing, Miss Ellen.
Oh, awesome! I seems like I do, but I'm not saying it's me. It's always you, and you're on time. So let's get into this. I sent you a something I saw on the net when on Wikipedia. You said no, Ellen, try these two. Boom! And so then I looked, I read. I didn't read in whole totality. I read to just pull out that would be conversational on what we're talking about. And
Exactly. Chat,
so
you gotta
what?
stop.
Yeah, because I didn't want to overload myself or download too much information on others, and they can go look at that website at the end. You can pop those two on there. So the first thing
Yeah.
we're going to talk about is academia performance. And
Hmm.
so I was looking at what they were saying. So the academic performance that they were talking about, that the measures, what this does, it measures its bullet points. So we can just go like that, okay? So
Okay.
what they say this does, it measure the students' achievement across various academic subjects. Um, and we'll know a little bit further as to how this breaks down and within your wheelhouse. So, what
Hmm.
do they mean that they want to make this No Child Left Behind so it could be across the board from school to
Hmm.
school? What does it mean? And tell us in and decoding definition what they're saying.
Right. Okay. So first things first. First things first. In general, I've never seen an exception to this rule, but in general, when you are looking at any piece of legislation, whatever the title is, in practice, it does the opposite.
Okay.
Look into it. Okay. No Child Left Behind. What did it do to the standards? What did it do to the classroom expectations of the teachers? What did it do to the focus of the education system? It turned it away from the student. It
Mm-hmm.
turned it away from making sure that they understand what they're talking about, what they're learning, and turned it toward being able to have rote memorization recall. So like quiz nights at the local pub, right? Is the way I like to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
You're recalling quiz facts instead of actually understanding what you're learning, because that's what standardized tests do. And then No Child Left Behind also, so the way that they, where to start? Okay, so let's start at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
The federal government has no control over the education in America. Okay. The Federal Department of Education was established during the Reconstruction period after the Civil War, because the federal government wanted to track and make sure that everyone was getting the education that they were supposed to. Okay. So it was supposed to be a statistic gathering entity, which is what they did. And I have no problems with them keeping track of how our kids are doing. Then in the I want to say 80s maybe. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, of course, but they passed 60s, 1965.
Mm-hmm.
In 1965, they passed, I forget what the name of it is, but it was the first legislation that attached funding
Yes.
to federal academic standards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So here's how the federal government gets around the 10th Amendment. Okay. The 10th Amendment to the Constitution, for those of you who do not know, says that anything that isn't explicitly said to be the responsibility of the federal government, or that is explicitly said to not be the responsibility of the state, is supposed to be the responsibility of the states. Okay? So if the Constitution or an amendment doesn't say that the federal government specifically is responsible for it, then it's supposed to be the responsibility of the state, and the federal government needs to keep their sticky paws off of
Mm-hmm.
it. We know that doesn't happen in practice, though. So this is how they get around the 10th Amendment. They say it's completely optional. Totally optional. We're offering grants. We've allocated funds for grants for anyone who wants to opt in. Now, this is how they got the speed limit to be 55 on most federal highways, because they offer road maintenance grants.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have it set higher than 55, then you're not eligible for those grants. So that's how they got that. Whenever you're looking at the education system, they said, we'll give you money for your kids' education. And education always needs more money, doesn't it? And
Mm-hmm.
if you said, as a senator, as a representative, as a local school board member, if you said, no, we want to maintain our autonomy and 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 honor the 10th Amendment and our Constitution and the rights of our local citizenry and individuals within our community that we're responsible for, you got put on blast, and you got run out the next election because you voted against the future of your kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what No Child Left Behind, sorry, let's get to what No Child Left Behind was supposed to do. So I was in high school in 2001, and I saw the transition firsthand as a student. Okay. So what it did was it established national standardized testing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which, like I said, the Federal Department of Education is supposed to gather statistics on how children are doing, on how students are doing in our schools. Okay. But they attached funding, additional funding, directly to the outcome of those tests and how well the students performed. That turns it from a statistic gathering endeavor to what is termed a high stakes test.
Yes.
The issue is, and if you want to learn more about this, check out the live replay from last week. It just went live yesterday on all of our podcasting platforms. We have Dr. Mary Cochran is our nationally renowned assessment specialist. And her and I talk about this a little bit. And we're going to be getting into it a lot more coming up in future podcasts about the difference between assessment for the sake of benchmark setting and tracking and this term of an idea and concept of high stakes testing. So what we were told as students was our teachers' funding, our teachers having jobs, were reliant upon us performing well on this multiple choice standardized test.
100.
So if we didn't do well, our teachers weren't going to have jobs anymore, and that was put on us.
True. Yes.
Now, I was a teenager who had been homeschooled, so I knew they were full of it. And any questions I had, I went and asked my parents, who looked into it and were like, that's not right. So they, of course, went to the school board meetings because they're my parents. But the amount of testing that has happened, that has been used as coercion against our students, has done nothing but increase since that door was opened with the introduction of the funding through No Child Left Behind. Because like I said,